What's up, guys? The Fantasy Preacher back in action. This is Ben Whitaker. Ben, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a lifelong football fan and a friend of Toby's, so super big Bucks fan. I've been with them since the Josh Freeman era, so I feel like I've kind of earned my moment in the sun. Super glad to be here and to talk with Toby.
Yeah, well, real quick, one more thing. You used to be more of a college football guy. Now you're more of an NFL guy. When was that change and why was it?
Yeah, so I would say that happened kind of whenever I just became a man.
Yeah.
It was one of those deals. I got into high school and I realized, man, a lot of college football, there's no defense and there's no emphasis. It's always just big play, like just explosions. And I found that like my love for football is in what it takes to build toward that moment, the chess match, the game within the game that makes it interesting.
But being a coach is what makes that aspect more desirable as well. Because it's more of a coach's battle whenever you look at it from that aspect. That's one of the reasons I'm a big NFL guy as well. So today we're going to be going over our running backs. So I've got them statted out 1 through 20. Ben did his tiers of running back. And what we'll do is we'll go through Ben's tiers and where I have them ranked in my top 20, just tier by tier, and we'll move down the list. So we'll go ahead and we'll start out with your S tier.
S tier, no surprises here. Number one running back in my mind this year has to be Jonathan Taylor. Anything else is a personal bias because statistically speaking, he's set up the best. He has a whole offense centered around him and an improvement at the quarterback, like that opens up their passing game opportunities. But the fact is that they're still building around him and he's young. And a lot of other guys that have some name notoriety on the list, man, they're starting to get out of that prime age for running backs. And one of those guys that is in the S tier along with Jonathan Taylor is the king himself, Derrick Henry. He has to be, until he is dethroned, I would say that his numbers last year just do not lie.
Crazy numbers last year, still finished the top 10 running back touchdown wise, even after going down week 8. So real quick, your S tier, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley. So like you, I've got Jonathan Taylor, number 1. Then I've got Derrick Henry at number 8, so probably falling out of the S tier there.
Yeah.
And I've got Dalvin Cook at 13.
Wow.
So falling out of the S tier, but we get to Austin Eckler, that's back up. He's projected to be my number 2 this year. And then Saquon Barkley as well, my number 4 statted out right now.
Okay.
So 3 out of 5 matches, which is good. It's interesting. I like it.
Yeah.
So because Austin Eckler right there at number 2, we'll talk about him for a second. Now, this is a high-powered offense. We all saw it last year. I mean, even the year before, Justin Herbert kind of shocked a lot of people his rookie season.
Yeah.
Now, with all of those weapons around there, and even the backup running back talk, does Austin Eckler scare you at all projected this high?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. Now, I know that in the past he has dealt with some injuries that linger throughout the season. And I know that they're saying, man, Joshua Kelly this preseason, man, they're still preseason.
Yeah.
And sometimes they just have that intangible thing about them. And I think Austin Eckler brings that to the table, especially in a PPR league. He's getting more targets than most running backs in that spot.
I agree. And I think one thing that makes him who he is his draft process. He wasn't highly touted as a scout, as an individual. A lot of guys who go to the NFL with a chip on their shoulder, they do well and they do well for a long time. So next, we've got Saquon. We'll go ahead and stick with
some Saquon.
Yeah, let's stick with some Saquon, yeah.
With Saquon, my thinking of why he's ranked so high. There's nothing else in New York.
Okay.
I mean, there is nothing.
There isn't. And, there's been different times throughout this offseason, right after the draft, halfway through the summer, this past week, where I've been like, there's got to be a standout wide receiver on that team that's just falling that I can pick up in drafts. And then I go and I look at the depth chart, I look at the guys that they have on the wide receiver list, and it really is. It's pathetic. And we saw Saquon come back last year from a major injury. Running backs, that first season backs, still not 100%. It never goes good for him. And then just on a freak accident, had a bad ankle sprain.
Yeah.
I think going into the season, he's fully healed, fully recovered. All the reports coming out of camp are saying that, like you said, the New York Giants is going to be Saquon Barkley's show.
Yeah.
And that's a guy that I love where I'm getting him in every draft.
Yeah,
every draft.
He's got some great value whenever you like the mock drafts that I've done. He's hanging around a little too long, I think. I think people have forgotten what kind of explosive player he is and how he is going to win you games week to week just by his production.
I agree. And a lot of people are worried about the receptions as well. Not his best season reception-wise that I have him set out for, 68. His rookie season, it was up in the 90s.
Wow, I didn't know it was that high. But
90s or high 80s, one of the two. So I still have those receptions coming there because kind of like we said, who else is Daniel Jones going to throw to on that offense,
Yeah, I think of like that tweet that they put out of like how many touchdown passes will Kenny Galladay catch this season, and then he proceeds to catch none. That's such a Giants thing to do.
It is. So we'll move on. Dalvin Cook. And I've got Dalvin Cook. Well, let's see here. Derrick Henry. We'll talk about Derrick Henry because I've got him statted out to be the 8th overall. Still getting a lot of yards. I've got him getting over 1,800 yards.
Yeah.
Got him getting 18 touchdowns. So that kind of just goes to show sort of the powerhouse of the guys that I have in front of him and what I think they're capable of doing this year. So most of those guys are beating him because they will have a higher reception total significantly. I've got him only getting 16 receptions because, as we know, that's just not his forte.
Yeah.
And so if we're thinking about this in a PPR standard, which is most of the leagues that I play in, points per reception, that's where he's fallen down. I still think he'll be, barring injury, a great running back. Good. I expect him, if he's fully healthy this season, honestly, to outperform what I've got him here for. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you're on to something there. It's just one of those deals with him getting a little bit older. Like, this could be his last full production year, but like my strategy in fantasy a lot of the time is, okay, until it's proven otherwise, go with what you know.
Exactly.
And especially whenever we're talking about RB1s, like, don't count them out until they are out.
Okay.
I look at Adrian Peterson. Like, I'm not a Sinners fan, but I love AD. Mm-hmm. And man, he could have been an RB1 for some teams last year. And that might be a hot take, but there were some really crummy running backs that were getting more touches than they deserved. And just because he was a little bit older, they were concerned with the knee. I get that. But like, every time that I would get on Twitter and see, Adrian Peterson's picked up by the Titans, I was like, yep, add him because he still had that explosive power. And I think you can expect that from Derrick Henry. I think there's some longevity there. Yes, a foot injury for a running back, obviously, it raises some red flags. But like I said, until proven otherwise, he's still the king.
I like that analysis. Until proven otherwise, it'll lead us into a running back that I'm ready to talk about. But first, we'll get to Dalvin Cook. I've got Dalvin Cook statted out to be the 13th overall running back.
Is that just because of injuries?
It's not because of injuries. It's more so because of... So kind of like we said about Austin Eckler, are we worried about the other weapons potentially stealing some things? it's not that I'm worried about him getting work stolen from him in the sense of other weapons, but I think that, we've seen every year Dalvin Cook miss 2-3 games, right?
Yeah.
Well, towards the end of last year, it was like we kind of saw him not hit a wall, but sort of slow down. I mean, he had a game where he came back and he had on his harness for his shoulder, and he was explosive. He was amazing. But then it was like every game after that, it almost didn't look like the same Dalvin Cook of old. And I think out of everybody on this list, Dalvin might be one of the guys that I'm most worried about going into the season. Because I love Dalvin Cook. I've always thought he was an amazing running back. Tried to get him every year in fantasy. I mean, and I still have him getting some good numbers. 1,500 yards, 39 receptions, 12 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So still really good numbers, but I'm just worried about him. And that's why I didn't stat him out to what I think his full potential could be. Because I don't think we'll ever see full potential Dalvin Cook again, especially with a new head coach who Sean McVay said, if he had left the Rams, he was going to take the Rams spot.
Yeah, that's true.
And, I mean, Sean McVay used to run the ball a lot, but we've seen here recently, if he doesn't have that stud running back that he likes, then he's fine with moving the ball, passing. And I think they're going to do really well moving the ball, passing downfield, having Dalvin there to kind of be a sort of a game breaker in the sense we can still run the ball down your throat if we need to, but we're going to beat you our way and have fun with it rather than just run it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he's Kirk Cousins. He's still Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
But he's got some serious weapons.
Yeah.
With Justin Jefferson. And Adam Thielen's getting old, but man, he's still got it. And he's still one of the highest red zone threats in the game right now. He's right up there with Mike Evans as far as, whenever they're in the red zone, he's the primary target. So I could definitely see that steering some people away from Dalvin Cook because he's probably not going to get the same red zone action as usual. And last year, a lot of the touchdowns he got were ones that were outside of the red zone. And things that he broke off into, he would drive, and they'd be like, all right, Alexander Madison, come in and get your 6 points, So, I get your concern there, but performance-wise, I think he could still.
He's got the vicinities to do it, no doubt, and I think he could, but I'm just a little bit more hesitant on him this year. So we'll go ahead and dive into your A tier.
Right here, we're going to get to the elephant in the room, I feel like, because in the S tier, neither one of us had this man in here where I feel like we were headed.
We'll talk about him and say again what you said earlier.
Until proven otherwise.
Okay, exactly. Until proven otherwise, Christian McCaffrey is not a guy I'm ever going to draft.
Me either. Me either.
Point period blank.
Yeah.
I've said it before on this show. I don't care. I keep on hearing all of these fantasy football guys on podcasts, on radio shows, YouTube, doing their mock drafts or whatever. Christian McCaffrey, 101, 102. And it doesn't make sense to me. Like I said, if you're going to take him, man, I wouldn't do it. I don't even think I would do it at the turn, but so I had to stat him out as if he were going to be healthy.
Yeah.
So he's in your A tier. I guess this would make him, if I had an A tier. He came in at 6. So CMC, I've got him getting 1,600 yards, 73 receptions because, he's a reception machine and he can turn those receptions into something.
Yeah.
And 13 touchdowns if he stays healthy. Now, a lot of guys say if he stays healthy, he would outperform this by far, at least 1,900, 1,800 yards. right? But my thing is, I think the Panthers are a little bit more smart than they have been to just, oh, Christian McCaffrey's healthy, let's throw him back in there, full workload, throw him to the Wolves, exactly. But more so, maybe ease into the season, get him there towards the end. I hope they would do that, or just game by game adjust and you've done this game, you're good. We're gonna give you some breaks from here on out in this game.
Yeah, and it does help to have a quarterback that's capable to actually use the resources they have in receivers like DJ Moore, who is notorious for getting a bunch of yards every year, but not the touchdowns. And so that does open up the ability to not just wear the rubber off of Christian McCaffrey. And I mean, I hate to say it because I like OSU, go Pokes, but I don't think Chuba Hubbard really.
No,
he doesn't compare, and there's no way. Anytime he's put in as the backup there, it's unlike a lot of other NFL teams where it's running back by committee.
Yeah, it is. It is true. So we'll go through the rest of your 8 here. I'll read them off real quick and where I've got them.
Right.
Leonard Fournette, Bucks, got him at 10. Alvin Kamara, I'm high on Kamara. I've got him at 5. Najee Harris, I've got him at number 3 overall this year. We'll stop and talk about Najee real quick.
Okay, let's do it.
At the beginning of the summer, really it was right after the draft, I went through and I statted out running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends. I had my top, 30 or so. Yeah. And Najee was a little lower on the list. Not too much. He was I think he was 5 or 6. And then coming into these, I was thinking, I'm not as high on Najee. I think he's still a great talent. And then I statted them out, and then I started putting them into place based on what their points would be through these stats. And he came in at 3rd, and I was kind of shocked, but I think it opened my eyes to what he could be, the way that the Steelers use him, especially since they're not going to have a superstar quarterback.
Yeah.
I think it'll be better than last year with quarterback play because Big Ben, it was kind of sad to watch him play.
But that's the check down king.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he'll get the receptions that he got last year, though. I'm a little lower on receptions, but still have him ending as the RB3.
Well, what I like about Najee is that he is like the Derrick Henry that catches passes. That's kind of like the best way. Whenever I see him play, he has that same intensity, runs downhill, big body. He can power run, but he also has hands. And so I'm not opposed to having him at 3 right there. It's just, I know he's not going to get the same workload. They're going to probably try to keep him injury free and probably not put the full weight on his back just yet.
Yeah. So then you've got Joe Mixon in your 8 here. I've got Joe Mixon coming in at 9. Okay. And then DeAndre Swift. We'll talk about him real quick. Kind of the same thing like I said with Najee. I've got Swift on this list as 7.
Yeah.
But back whenever I did it the first time, I had DeAndre Swift statted out to end at the number 4.
Yeah.
So I've fallen off a little bit of that confidence, but I still think that DeAndre Swift is going to have a pretty big year, a significant year. I think that offense is much more capable than they have been.
Yeah.
I've said this before on a show. I think with more weapons that are more comfortable with each other, Jared Goff will be able to pass the ball in comfortable situations, and through that, DeAndre Swift, even rushing, because a lot of people don't like him as a pure rusher, I think through that, DeAndre Swift's rush game will even be opened up.
Yeah.
And I think they'll complement each other nicely, the rush and the passing game there. So, got Swift finishing at 7. And then,
No, that's sounds, you hit the nail on the head with it.
So, right here, and we'll talk about this. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in your A tier. Now you've got the slash, which it's funny because whenever I've done some of these, I've put the slash.
Yeah.
Right? So the first time, really I probably could have done it this time, I had like Elijah Mitchell / 49ers running back, whoever ends up actually being the starter.
Yeah.
And so I get why you're doing that and I get what you're saying, but let's say this, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. I've got Nick Chubb at 17, Kareem Hunt's off the top 20 list.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one, I think I know who it would be, just based on consensus, but
for sure.
Who would it be?
It has to be Nick Chubb because he is quite possibly the most natural running back that I have seen in this year, in years past, really. I mean, it's hard to think of anyone who just has such a great balance of power and finesse and just looks like a natural back there. Not Bo Jackson level, but the same style. Like Bo could do it either way. So yeah, I definitely picked Nick Chubb, but the reason I have the slash, of course, is because Kareem Hunt steals a lot of his, obviously on passing downs. I think that there are other teams that should be trading to get Kareem Hunt because he would be a lot more useful as a primary back. And I mean, I don't know about the Browns this year. I just don't know.
I mean, well, because now, what is it, an 11 game or 12 game?
It's 11? I think so.
I mean, I haven't really looked that deep into their schedule recently, but back whenever they announced it was 6 games, it was like Deshaun Watson was going to come back and he was going to have a hard 4 weeks, just tough matchups. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Leonard Fournette.
Yeah.
We talk about Fournette? We didn't?
We haven't.
Okay, yeah. So, Bucks, I'm big on Fournette. Now, coming in at the number 10, you might not think I'm like huge on him, but I don't want people to forget because it seems like in drafts, a lot of people are scared, hesitant, and don't really want to take Leonard Fournette this season. As a Bucks fan here, what would you have to say about that?
Well, I know I don't have a chance to get him in my home league because I, have other friends that are huge Bucks fans and they're total homers. Yeah. I mean, like Leonard Fournette, there's a good chance and someone's gonna reach and get him first round. I would bet. Yeah. I would bet money on that.
Well, especially the way he ended the season last year.
Oh yeah, playoff winning. He's the man. It's something about SEC running backs. There's a reason they have success at the next level, and he's no exception to that. I think with Ronald Jones being like out of the picture, we have Zamir White, who's a rookie. He looks good, but he's still a rookie, and I think it'll be good for him to get some reps behind Leonard Fournette. But he's the guy. Yeah. I mean, last year we split a bunch with Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, but like he can catch, he can run. Whenever he gets around on the outside, no one's catching him.
He's got a lot of tools. He does.
He's useful. So yeah.
And one thing that I've pointed out before is Leonard Fournette is sneaky efficient. He was more efficient with all of his receptions total than Najee Harris was last year.
Wow.
So that's one thing that I've looked into. And if he would have gotten as many receptions as Najee, he would have had about 200 more 200 more receiving yards.
So let me ask you this. What round is the earliest you would take Leonard Fournette?
I think I don't know if it's appropriate to take him in the first, unless if you're in one of these homer leagues where you really start to see running back, just all almost seem to be gone in the first round. That's the only time I think it's appropriate in the first round because there's too much talent. I mean, especially at the wide receiver position this year, that some of those guys, and I'm not a big, hero RB draft strategist.
Yeah.
I'm getting my RBs early, and then I love the wide receivers that come a little bit later that I can pair them with. But I can't deny some of these guys this year at wide receiver. If it's falling to me, like if I've got an awkward pick, like, 6, 7, 8,
yeah,
I'm probably going to be taking one of the
get an elite wide receiver.
One of the wide receivers that should have gone top 6 picks that fell to me.
Yeah.
So, but I'm still a big advocate for the draft RBs early. And then Joe Mixon. So, Joe Mixon with the Bengals. I've got Joe coming in one spot ahead of Fournette at number 9, running back number 9.
Okay.
Any thoughts on Joe Mixon, or shall we move on? Because Joe Mixon's, I feel like he's a little bit more polarizing this year in the sense of it's almost as Fournette. A lot of people seem to be thinking he's running on empty, but I would say if you're just in your redraft league, these are 2 guys to aim for.
Yeah.
2 guys to aim for. They're going to put up points, barring injury. They're going to do very well this season. And kind of like I said with Swift, I mean, if the Bengals passing game opens up more, because last year they tend to run the ball a lot more than they would pass. Which is crazy considering where some of those wide receivers finished and Joe Burrow finished, but it is true. So I think that even if the passing game goes up a few ticks, I think it will complement the running game.
I think it will too. Yeah, he's definitely very solid RB1 in any league. He's not going to lose you any games by underproduction. I think he does a good job of getting what he needs to get for fantasy purposes.
That's one thing that pleased me with him in leagues that I had him in last year. It was like, even if he wasn't getting the yards, and I was sitting there thinking like, oh man, if he doesn't score a touchdown, I'm going to be in trouble. He would always end up getting that touchdown.
Yeah.
And I would be happy with it. And so I'm not worried about him coming through week to week. So we'll move on to the B tier.
Okay.
So any in this tier that you're particular on, that you favor more?
These are all guys that are reasonable RB2s, I would say. If you're getting these guys, I try not to get running backs from round 4 through 6 just because they don't produce. They never meet the expectations that I have. And there's a lot of really good wide receivers that you can roll the dice on instead of knowing that you're going to get just a mid running back. And so James Conner, definition of mid. And he's the most average running back in the league. He's not going, there's no standard deviation. His floor and ceiling are like this. I think he'll meet expectations. I think having Aaron Jones in the B tier will shock a lot of people. I think that's kind of a hot take. Listen, I'm not a prophet, okay? But I just got a feeling he's going to have a bad injury this year. I think he's kind of been a little too injury prone. It always seems like every week he's questionable to me. And I think that he's got someone behind him that can fill his shoes way better than he can.
I agree with you there, and we'll pause and talk about that for a second. I've got A.J. Dillon coming in at the 11 overall, and then 3 spots down, I've got Aaron Jones at 14 overall. Now, what's interesting is I've almost got them with a 50-50 workload, 52 receptions for A.J. Dillon, 51 for Aaron Jones. But I have A.J. Dillon doing a little bit more with what he gets than Aaron Jones. Because it was almost unexpected the way it happened last season. I mean, he had 4 touchdowns in the second game of the season last year. And then it was from that point on, he was very streaky, very spotty, didn't come through consistently. So real quick, we'll go through your B tier
Okay.
one by one. Javonte, talked about him. James Conner, got him. Aaron Jones, done. Zeke, well, stop here. I don't have Zeke in my top 20.
Yep.
I've got Tony Pollard taking over the role.
Really?
Yeah. I've got Tony Pollard taking over the role, and let's see here. Okay, so he's on my who to watch coming in at the RB22.
Okay.
And then I've got Zeke probably at the 28.
What's your reason for like the Zeke slander?
I think that there's guys that get to the league and they're still hungry. They still want more, and they've already proved themselves, but they feel like they haven't because they are conscious of what they could improve on, what they could do better. And I also think there's guys that get into the league and say, of course I'm supposed to be here. Of course I'm supposed to be the best.
Yeah.
I am the best.
You get satisfied.
Exactly. I think he gets satisfied. I think that was easy to do with the Cowboys, especially with Dak coming in whenever they were both young and had phenomenal seasons at a young age. Yeah. I think he grew content, thought, I don't have to work too hard for this. I mean, we've seen that crop top get tighter and tighter.
I was about to say, you can't say he's not still hungry.
Yeah. He's definitely still hungry there. But, and so, I mean, the body is a big deal in the NFL. And it's like, if you take care of that, then you can have longevity. And I don't see it working out well for him in the sense of not just injuries, but ability.
Yeah. I hear you loud and clear. That's why I've got him B tier. It's not just personal bias against the Cowboys, because I do hate the Cowboys, but, and I don't know if that's going to upset some of your viewers, but
hey, we don't care.
they need to know that week 1 we got their number.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's going to fall off drastically.
Okay.
Not expect elite numbers from him.
Another guy that's interesting here is right under Zeke, you've got ETN.
I do. I think that you're going to get that Clemson chemistry.
Really?
I think you are.
Okay.
I think that he's got, like, watching his film and seeing him in practices and stuff, just seeing the way that he moves.
Mm-hmm.
He's got and I don't know how to put it into words necessarily, but he has the right movement to work in that offense. And I don't know if it's his shiftiness or how he cuts back really well. I don't know what it is about him, but I think that he's going to kind of get James Robinson out of the spot, you know, and I think that position's, obviously the Jaguars are looking for something like that. They're looking for someone to take the reins on it, and I think it's a good move to get that chemistry with Trevor Lawrence.
What makes me hesitant about ETN, he falls out of my top 20.
Mm-hmm.
One is James Robinson. If he's back and healthy week 1 and plays, I think it'll be harder for ETN to kind of do what you were talking about there, take over that role. I think it would be easier for him if Robinson misses week 1, week 2.
Yeah.
ETN's established himself. Okay, this kid does have some juice, even though he came off of that injury.
Yeah.
And then Robinson comes back, and they say, we're going to integrate him in. He doesn't prove himself. The role goes to ETN.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it.
I could see it happening.
Best case scenario for ETN, and I could see that happening. But I worry if Robinson is back and they make it a timeshare kind of 50-50 thing, so that way they both become fully healed from their injuries, and then it's almost a backfield that I want to stay away from at that point.
Yeah. Anytime it's like that, and we're coming up on it in the C tier where we have a lot more of that going on.
Mm-hmm.
But within the B tier, even with Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, I really hope that Javonte just takes over. And I hate that for Melvin Gordon, but I think he's the better back of the two.
Well, I agree. I think Javonte definitely takes over there and wins that role some point in this season, and I think he'll produce. He'll do very well. I've got Javonte coming in at the RB12 at the end of the season. We'll save Damian Harris and Montgomery
Okay.
for later.
Okay.
Real quick though, we're gonna move on to the C tier. I'm gonna read these off where I have them respectively,
Okay.
and we're gonna pick out a couple of these because there's some names that I like over here.
Yeah.
So Cordero Patterson, Cordero falls out. He's in my top 25, but he's not in my top 20. Devin Singletary falls out. I'm higher on James Cook than any of those backs. Chase Edmonds, I like Chase Edmonds coming in at 18 on my list.
Okay.
Damian Pierce, he's on my who to watch, but I forgot to physically put him on my who to watch.
Yeah.
But he is there. Elijah Mitchell, if like I said earlier, whoever the Niners running back is, they're gonna produce. They're gonna do good. It's a question as to who it will be almost every year. Then same thing over here. You've got the Breece Hall / Michael Carter. Real quick, one thing about Breece Hall and Michael Carter, I've said it's going to be a less productive Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what it's built to be, especially with the Jets.
Absolutely.
With the quarterback situation going on, Zach Wilson injured.
Yeah.
I'm not excited about either of those guys. I'll be excited about Breece in future seasons.
Yeah.
And then Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. So, I'll just hit real quick on them, and then I'll ask you about a different guy.
Okay.
Because the local Rams fan here is not taking either of these running backs in any draft.
No chance.
I'm letting somebody else take them and worry about them. Who's going to get the majority of the workload? Who knows? I'm just staying away.
Yeah.
Now, guys that I want to hear your opinion on,
Okay.
Chase Edmonds and Damian Pierce. Talk to me about Chase.
Chase Edmonds, the best value for a PPR league. There's no one
For
better
sure.
who gets more targets, more consistent production than Chase Edmonds, and you can get him for super cheap.
Mm-hmm. Super cheap.
His ADP is not where it should be, quite honestly, for a PPR league.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you said it before, but I just want to emphasize it. If you do half point PPR, just don't play.
Honestly.
There's just no point. Go back to 1982 and play standard.
Yeah.
Because your half point doesn't do anything. That's just stupid. Okay, but yeah, Chase Edmonds, greatest value running back on the list. Who else do you ask me about?
Real quick on Chase Edmonds. Quick story. In a Superflex Dynasty League that I'm in, we're drafting. It gets to the 14th round, and I'm at the 7th spot in the draft. So one of those awkward spots, but I've built a well team. Chase Edmonds in the 14th round is coming back to me. And I'm like,
wow,
this is beautiful. Chef's kiss.
Wow.
And then the team right in front of me takes him. But anyways, the next
14th round?
14th round.
That is a dynasty.
Dynasty, super flex, yeah. So a lot of QBs go early. Damian Pierce. Now, real quick here, Damian Pierce was a guy that my father came to me after the draft and said, he's going to do something this year. And I was like, what? Because the Texans, this guy was from Florida. He'd never had a 100-yard game.
Yeah.
He'd had touchdown, never had a 100-yard game, fallen short every time. And now it seems like the past week or two, everybody is just Damian Pierce smashing that draft button.
They're all about him, and I hate that. I hate that he's getting hyped literally like the week before my drafts because he was going to be like my dark horse where I just anyone who didn't do their research, but dude, you watch the film for one of him at Florida. He is a downhill runner. And I know I say that a lot, but this guy just hits a hole. I've seen on Twitter where he's called Damian Fierce, and that is so fitting for his running style. Also, look at who the Texans have. Okay.
Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, they have Brandon Cooks as wide receiver 1. Okay. Great. No diss on him. Someone's got to catch the balls eventually for them when they have 120 passing yards maybe total for the first 3 games combined. But look at the backfield.
Yeah.
Rex Burkhead,
Marlon Mack.
2 old heads, not a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
He earned this position. The way I see it, they'll run for 3 downs and then punt.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they have enough series, then they can he can produce. But like you said, he just keeps getting drafted higher and higher up, and I'm not really willing to roll the dice on him. Like I said, in that 4 to 6 round zone, I don't really like taking a running back there. There's just too many good wide receivers. But if you see him still going in 9th or 10th round, I'd probably take him.
Yeah. And your D tier, I'll read these guys off real quick, but there's only one that I want to talk about.
Yeah, that's fine, because this is just the people that I'm not touching with a 39.5-foot pole.
What I think is funny is that Brian Robinson is on here, but Antonio Gibson didn't even make it, because it's so true. Okay, so Rashad Penny, Brian Robinson, Miles Sanders, Edwards-Helaire, Josh Jacobs, J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Edwards-Helaire, CEH. Why in the D tier? Because I've got CEH finishing at 16 overall.
Wow. The last few years, he just does not produce whenever the Chiefs need him. Every time I watch a game of them playing, it's like, oh, he rushed for like 2 yards. He never has a play where it's just like, oh, he looks like an elite running back out there. He just doesn't have it, I don't think. And I think adding Ronald Jones to the equation, who is another just like average running back that sometimes catches passes, man, they don't have that fire.
Yeah.
And so that's why he's there.
One of the reasons why CEH, I didn't think he would make it in my top 20, especially at number 16. One of the reasons is whenever I was statting him out, I had to give him a little bit of a boost compared to what I actually think he will do because of Tyreek Hill's absence. And I think with them having a few other young running backs, he'll still be the starter, get the bulk of the work, and they're going to incorporate the running backs a lot more into the offense. And so I think that makes his production a little more pleasable.
Yeah, I think so.
To the eyes to watch. So we'll hop into my who to watch. Some of these guys have been talked about. What's interesting is the Devin Singletary in the C tier. I've got James Cook on my who to watch as the RB28.
Yeah.
Now I think it will be a committee. I think Devin Singletary is still going to get his options, still going to get his work. But have you seen James Cook's highlights from whenever they played the Denver Broncos in preseason?
I haven't, I'll be honest.
Okay, I was excited whenever they drafted James Cook.
Mm-hmm.
Watching those highlights, go watch those highlights. They are impressive. I mean, every run, every catch, it was at least 8 yards. Picking up first downs, explosive, looked really good. Now this past, because that was 2 weeks ago, this past week, whenever they played, it might have been yesterday, honestly, he didn't get as much work.
Yeah.
I think he might have rushed the ball 2 times for 10 yards or something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But excited about James Cook, excited about Dameon Pierce, like we already talked about, excited about Tony Pollard.
Yeah. And
then I've got down here also stay away from the Commanders backfield because as we said, it's going to be a little rough.
Well, yeah, because just this week Antonio Gibson being told, hey, you're going to be the starting kick returner.
Yeah.
It's like the starting running back, and now you're the kick returner. It's not looking good for him.
Not a good look. So I'm going to let you look over this real quick.
Okay.
And pick out some guys that you think are going to be like maybe on your tiers list or whatever, that are going to be exciting that we didn't talk about. And I'm going to read off my top 20.
Okay.
So why don't you do that?
Yeah.
So 1, I've got Jonathan Taylor. 2, Austin Eckler. 3, Najee. 4, Saquon. 5, Kamara. 6, CMC. 7, Swift. 8, Derrick Henry. 9, Joe Mixon. 10, Fournette. 11, AJ Dillon. 12, Javonte. 13 Dalvin Cook, 14 Aaron Jones, 15 James Conner, 16 CEH, 17 Nick Chubb, 18 Chase Edmonds, 19 Elijah Mitchell, and 20 J.K. Dobbins. So go ahead and let me guess. Was J.K. Dobbins at 20 one of the guys that you want to talk about?
Yeah, just because I don't trust him. I don't
Okay.
trust anyone. Any team that has a quarterback that has a good set of legs underneath them and is a primary part of getting the rushing touchdowns and for any kind of rushing attack, I don't want their running back.
Yeah.
He's not going to get a high enough percentage of touchdowns for me to say he's worth it where he's going to get drafted at, and he's splitting. And even if he has a backup, which he does in Gus Edwards, that is, also very prone to injury, you split that 3 ways instead of 2. It's just, man, there's got to be more on the table for me to want to draft him where he's getting drafted at. Another guy on my list that we didn't talk about much was Rashad Penny. Listen, Seahawks have nothing going for them. Geno Smith is the guy. After I think it was last night that
Geno Smith was announced. Yeah. I think the starter.
And Drew Lock threw like 4 picks in a preseason game.
Ugly.
So I would say that Rashad Penny is not a good pickup. He's not. He might be the starting running back, but he's not gonna put up the numbers. And we saw last year that he had some explosive runs and broke for big yards, but he's not a threat to catch a pass at all. They don't even think about even faking a pass to him. So I think as a PPR league, his price is too high for me to want to get him. I think we covered pretty much everyone. One of my strategies is always the good old-fashioned handcuff with Alexander Madison. He's won me many games because he's a carbon copy of Dalvin Cook, and they can just plug him in whenever Dalvin's out. So I will reach for Madison because he, that Dalvin Cook's going to miss a couple games here or there.
Yeah.
And
Madison always performs.
He always performs.
This past season, he was performing whenever Cook missed. Well, with that, anything else?
No, thanks for having me on. I look forward to next week. He'll be dropping the receivers, right?
Yes, sir.
And I don't know who the guest is. They'll probably be more talented with better opinions than I have. But with that, go Bucks.
Thank you. All right, guys. Ben Whitaker, the fantasy preacher, Toby Huff, and we'll see y'all later.